Navigating today's real estate market can be tricky. Want to buy or sell a house, finance or insure a house, or stuck with a house and don't know what to do? Florida Talk Real Estate has been your local one-stop real estate shop since 2012. Get the advice you need from your local real estate pros. Here are your hosts, Jim DiPaola and Johnny C. live on Real Radio.
Liar, liar, pants on fire. Johnny is not here today. It's just Jimmy D, so you're just going to have to live with it. Can everybody hear me?
I can now.
Okay, great. This is Florida Talk Real Estate, the #1 information provider in Florida about all things real estate from a consumer perspective. And we got a great crew here today. We have Mike Rauch from the mortgage firm. Hey, Mike.
Oh, hey, Jimmy. How are you this morning? Good.
I'm doing okay. I'm having headphone difficulties, so I'm working off of my computer, and it's very low. So a couple of times I might say, K?
Oh, that means what?
Yeah, it means what?
Yeah, nice. Well, good morning to you. Good morning, South Florida audience. And hello to the other boys. Good
morning. And we have two very special guests today. We have AJ Hollman from Experienced Appraisers, and I'm so happy to have him here. It's the second time as our guest because we love talking about appraisals, and it's very mysterious to a lot of people. And I was telling, so I'm really looking forward, AJ, to talking about stuff. And last time you were on, Mike was on vacation, and he was so bummed out. And he was like, oh, man, I wanted to be on that show. So we had to bring you back, and everybody loved it. So we bring you back, AJ.
Well, good morning. Thanks for having me.
Thank you so much. And I told AJ that I was really glad that we have our next guest on the show this week because Jarrett Perry from the Perry CPA Group and Player Performance Firms, he has many, many questions about appraisals and just from a general layman's point of view. And I have to make fun of Jarrett a little bit. A lot of times when he asks questions about the appraisal process, it's usually different than what he thinks it is.
It's completely different, 100% different for sure. And yeah, I definitely have a question for you later. Mike was part of it, so he can ask. My haircut was an accident, by the way, Jim.
For real?
I'll tell you about it.
Oh man, I'm gonna have to talk to you about that. That's all. I want to hear that story.
Yeah, it's a good one. It's a good one. Good to see everybody. Glad to be here. Happy Saturday.
Oh my God, he's been so busy. You know, it is sports time right now. It's all kind of crazy stuff between the NFL and the NBA. Jarrett is just going a little crazy right now. Plus, it was tax time for all the self-employed people. So we're going to talk.
Yeah. Extensions. All the extensions are due right now. Personals are due now too. So
one of the things that we're going to talk about today, which I really think is great, is that we can get a perspective on self-employed buyers for residential real estate. It can be very difficult when you're self-employed to buy a home if you're not prepared right. So I thought today would be a great segment to have the perspective of Jarrett from an accounting point of view to help Mike, the mortgage guy, get you that self-employed owner the loan that they need in order to qualify for a loan. So we're going to talk about that today. But what I'd like to start off with first is just a couple of thank yous and what happened yesterday, because it was kind of a crazy day yesterday. So our first thank yous are, I wanted to thank
These
John.
Different than shout outs, Jim?
Yeah, this the reason why I'm not doing shout outs is while we had a lot of closings the week before last, we have a lot of people that are going to close next week, but they're not closing yet. So today I'm going to be talking about people that gave us brand new business. So I just wanted to give a couple of shout outs to a couple of people that gave us business, or thank yous for people that gave us business. So wanted to say thank you to John. Man, John is just a big fan of the WZZR show, the whole station. Love John, really great guy. Loves fishing, Jarrett. You would love him. He's on the water as much as he can. And
awesome. I already like him.
I'm sorry?
You said I already like him.
Yeah, you already like him, right? And John had an investment property. He wasn't sure if he should sell or buy. And we had talked to him for several months while he was trying to decide what to do. He decided actually, I think on Monday to go ahead and go forward with the deal. We put the house on the market this Thursday, 36 hours ago. We have 6 offers on the table, and we're probably taking one of the offers right after we get off the show. So 36 hours, house is sold. Got a great deal. He got $5,000 above list price, which was a very high price in the neighborhood. Listen to this: cash, 0-day inspection. So and the house is a 1957, no AC, never had AC in it, plaster walls, newer roof, and cloth wiring for the electric. And we still got that offer today with 0-day
Where's
inspection.
the house?
I'm sorry?
Where's that house?
The house is in the Lake Worth, Palm Springs area.
No AC? Is that here?
No, never had AC in its life. Yeah, it was built without AC.
I know there's a lot of them over there in Old Lake Worth like that, but it's crazy. Crazy to think they didn't have AC in those houses.
Yep. AJ, just out of curiosity, when you're doing an appraiser, even though I'm going to thank you and I'm asking you appraisal question right away, that's going to happen all show, guys. So just get used to it because it's hard to get an appraiser on the phone.
Yeah.
So it's so awesome to ask all these questions. When there's no AC in the house, there was never AC in there, right? Like no duct work, no heating duct work, nothing. Just the jalousie windows and the house position for the wind to go through, because that was the way they built houses back then. No AC. They position a house a certain way so the wind could go through the house. How does that affect an appraisal compared to other houses in the neighborhood that do have AC?
Right. Well, like most things in appraising, what we try to do is to not compare it to the one that has central air, but to find others that have the same condition. So actually, just this last week, I worked on one in Lake Worth, just south of College Park, east, like K Street. And it had wall units, but wall units is the same thing as no AC as far as it's just basically personal property. So I did an analysis, and actually 10% of the comps that I would normally use did not have central air or were listed as not having central air. And then once I reviewed them, some people just did field errors. But at the end of the day, it was 5%. So 1 in 20 of my comps actually did not have central air, never had it, didn't have, a lot of people do the split units now on those older homes. So basically, believe it or not, we find other ones that don't have central air.
That's how you
I
do
might
it.
use something that has central air. If I do, like all things in appraising, I market extract out what the difference is by comparing ones that have it and ones that don't have it, and see what the market pays in that area, in that location.
For the fair market value to add a new one? Is that what you're saying?
Well, no, not cost. What we look at is, let's take something else, a pool. Whether it's a pool or central air or a detached garage that nobody else has.
Yeah, I got you. Yeah.
We try to market extract. We try to find some stuff that has it, find some stuff that doesn't have it, and see what difference people paid.
Yep. Makes sense.
Awesome. Thank you.
Definitely going to be a lot of questions for sure.
Yeah, there's going to be a lot going on today. But that's really good information. I also wanted to say thank you to Joe. Joe just put his house on the market in Jupiter. Really great opportunity in the North Palm Heights. North Palm Beach Heights. It's in the city of Jupiter, but the community is called North Palm Beach, and it's in the Heights. They usually just call it the Heights. And this is an unusual home for this community. It's 1,800 square feet, and it's 3-bedroom and 3-bath. And what this fit with the 2-car garage, and what the family did about 5 years ago, they actually pulled permits and added a full addition to bring the house from about 1,200 square feet to a 1,800 square feet 1-1 with its own mother-in-law suite with a private entrance and its own bathroom. And they did an excellent job, and the kitchen is fabulous. And if you want to check it out, you can either go to our YouTube channel or our Facebook channel and check the house on there. I think the headline is 525,000 Jupiter. This house is probably going to go pretty quick. Yesterday, we put it on the market like John's property and Joe's property. Hasn't had an offer yet, but I think he has about double the amount of showings that John has. I think he has 12 or 15 showings scheduled. between yesterday and Sunday right now. So it's pretty busy.
Can they rent out a separate unit?
It's not detached. It's actually attached to the house.
Gotcha.
But it's attached to the garage and the side of the house, and it flows really well. It looks like the house was built that way. You know how sometimes it looks like an afterthought? This looks like it flowed that way. So this is a great multi-generational house. If you have a multi-generational situation, this would be a perfect opportunity for that. And if you wanted to turn it into rental property, there's opportunities that also. And let me tell you that mother-in-law suite is so nice. If somebody wanted to live in the mother-in-law suite,
I was gonna say there's a lot of kids living at home now as they get a little older, so that could be like the child-law suite, you know.
That's why Jim's saying multi-generational. It could be your parents or it could be your kids.
So, yeah.
Hey, I was thinking the same question as Jarrett. Like, can you use that as rental income? So it's not zoned at this point a 2-unit property. It's still a single-family home.
Yeah. So the owner says that renting it out, according to him, is no issue whatsoever. So that's what he says. So.
Yeah, that's what I was just thinking. I don't think it would be a problem.
Now, AJ, is there any difference when you have a 3-3 and there's a mother-in-law suite and one of the rooms has like an extra like kitchen in it? Because like this house has almost like, I would call it 1.5 kitchens, because in the mother-in-law suite there's a refrigerator, a microwave, and a sink.
He's gonna look for comparators, right? See if he finds
a couple of things. I mean, in that neighborhood, it's going to come down to market acceptance for one thing. That neighborhood you're talking about does have some duplexes in there, some multifamilies towards, I think, like the front. Mm-hmm. The other thing is it legally permissible if you're going to use it for like on a income approach for income, like you guys were just talking about? It needs to be legally permissible for an appraiser to use it. But again, it comes down to comparing, trying to find something else in there. And I do run into that. Sometimes, you'll have a neighborhood where it's more common and people pay a premium for it. But if I can't show another example of it, then maybe it doesn't conform to the market. And if I can show another example of it, what did that home sell for? And did it seem to contribute value? It really comes down to just analyzing a lot of sales and trying to find the similar stuff. Situation like that, you're
when it doesn't conform to the market. What happens when it doesn't conform to the market? It's just backing into it, or
it doesn't really carry value then. If it's not conforming to the market from an appraiser's point of view, it's not really going to carry much value. Gotcha. And also when it comes to those mother-in-laws, a lot of it depends on the floor plan, how it's laid out. Is it congruent living area? So, I might still be able to give it living area, but not give it contributory value above and beyond that for the kitchen, for example.
That's what I was thinking, that you were saying maybe you can't give them the auxiliary unit credit for that, but you could give them, as long as it's under air, you can give them the GLA, or the gross living area and square footage.
As long as you can access it from the main home, because on a lot of times with those, they'll have a side entry door, a rear entry door, and there's no way to access the main area of the home from the interior. And that's a functional layout issue for me using it as living area.
Yeah, and this house is not like that at all. It's definitely flows right through the main part of the house. So,
then definitely.
Yeah, and let me tell you, the finishes. If you want, this is a good time to talk about this. You can go to our Facebook page, which we're live on right now. If you want to check us out live, if you're listening on the radio or something, you could always catch the reruns on the Facebook page later on. Just go to Florida Talk Real Estate. But on there right now is a video I put together of that house and the amenities in that area. So if you're listening out of state and you're trying to learn a little bit more about what's going on in the community around that house, check out that video. You could also go to the YouTube channel, Florida Talk Real Estate LLC, see the same video. And also we, I think, have 384 hours of videos on our YouTube channel, growing every day. We're doing a video almost every day starting Monday. And through December. So there's going to be just tons of information in there. So don't forget to check out our Facebook pages and our YouTube page. And if you guys can do me a favor, if you guys can subscribe to my YouTube page and join our group, that would be so great, because I'm in a competition with 50 other top agents across the country, trying to build our YouTube channels. So if you can go ahead and click on subscribe. Now, I asked everybody to do that last week, and then I checked out my my YouTube channel on Monday, and I actually lost 10 people. And I figured out what happened. I was like, what the heck happened there? And I realized when I was trying to like somebody else's YouTube page, I had already subscribed to it. So when I clicked the button, I was unsubscribing. So I think people went in there to do me a favor. Thank you, everybody that did that, and then unsubscribe me. Maybe you just unsubscribe me, and if you did that, that's okay too.
I subscribed last week when you asked, Jim, and I'm yet to receive a call about my prize. I don't know what happened there. If there's a disconnect.
That's not there yet. And
we're also live on IG, Jim. Just so,
and we're live on Instagram right now. Now, how do they get to your Instagram page, Jarrett? It's PPF hyphen something.
Just PPF_CPA.
PPF_CPA. Check us out on Instagram. I love when Jarrett does that. Hey, Jarrett, by the way, we're going to be putting a 5-part series together about athletes buying homes, and we're going to send that stuff out to you in a little bit. Okay, it'll be really cool, like a little 5-part nuggets for Instagram.
That would be really, really helpful. They need that for sure.
You could do a whole series about athletes doing stuff. I think that would be neat. Like
athletes doing stuff. Yeah. Is that the name? Is that the name of the channel? Athletes doing stuff.
Yeah, really. Athletes.
It could be anything. We could teach them to fish, teach them to do mortgages, all that stuff.
I like that. How about this? Athletes doing their own books.
Yeah, teaching QuickBooks.
Oh my gosh.
Make a note.
So also we are live right now on, you can tell that I'm Jimmy D and not Johnny C. He has all the great intros and the outros and the segues, and then there's just me that just kind of like a bull in a china shop, break everything around me. But we are live right now, so if you have any questions for us at all, please don't hesitate to call us. You can call us live right now at 877-927-6969. We'd love to take your questions on the air. Look, we've got an appraiser on the show today. We have a great mortgage guy. We've got a great accountant. So give us a call, and we'll answer your questions live on air. Also, if you want to call
one hell of a real estate agent, Jim.
Is the number on the screen? Can they call the number on the screen as well? Does that go to the same thing, or does that need to be updated?
Go to the screen. What are you talking about?
Well, the one you see online looks like it says it's a different number. I'm sorry.
Oh, yes. Okay. Sorry. That screen. Okay. He's looking at the Facebook thing. Yes. I was just going to say, if you want to call us off air, 888-973-7828. That's our off air number. Now, we have a live hotline there, 24/7. Live person picks up 24/7. You call us 3 o'clock in the morning, you're going to get a live person. They're just going to say, Jim will call you back tomorrow. Okay, but you can take down the information and all that. If you do leave addresses, like if you're trying to do home insurance, or you're thinking about selling a house or refining a house, by leaving your address with your message, it helps us out greatly, because I can actually do some comping before I give you a call. Whether you want to do a refi or if you're thinking about selling the house, I can give you a pretty clear idea of what's going on in the neighborhood. I wanted to switch over. Let me see here, because we've got 10 minutes. I want to make sure. Okay, we're going to talk a little bit about, before we get into the appraisals and everything. Well, actually, let's get into the self-employed segment first, and then at 9, we're going to take a break at 9:30. And then 9:30, when we come back after the break, we're going to talk about the market and how I have more proof that it is softening. I've been saying that now for about 45 days. We're getting more material, more and more statistics that show the market is softening, not crashing, just softening. And we're going to talk a little bit about that. And the reason why is on Thursday, the county market reports came out for sales and prices. And we have a lot of really interesting information related to that. But first, let's get into self-employed, like buying a house when you're self-employed. We just had one, Mike, that I assume went really, really smoothly. Lee ended up selling his house we talked about this last week. He sold his townhome and then bought a new single-family home, and he's self-employed. But you know what, Mike? That's one of the few self-employed people that I didn't talk to you a lot about. So I'm assuming that his was pretty clean.
Well, no, No, he's a very good case study, I think, because we've been talking to Lee for several years now, as he was figuring out. Remember when he was on the hunt initially, he's in the construction field, and so he was kind of looking for homes that he could get for a lower price and then turn into what he wanted. And I actually think he ended up with a really great home to do that, although he did at the end need your expertise and your negotiating to make it happen. But yeah, I reviewed tax returns for him several times, and we discussed kind of what things may or may not need to change in order for him to qualify at a certain price point.
So when Jarrett had to buy his house and when I had to buy my house, we're all self-employed, and it was a little messy for us. You know what I mean? We had to, just like Lee, we had to do stuff in order to in order to get through the underwriting. And
go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was going to say there was a difference with Jarrett and with you and Lee. Lee's more the common case for me. Like, you review historically filed returns. He wasn't Schedule C, but he was self-employed. He had an LLC, and he just a lot of people are taught when they're filing their returns in general. You're trying to basically figure out, and a great CPA will help you do this, how to maximize what the IRS allows you, so that you can minimize your tax burden, right? The amount of taxes that you owe. And so you're oftentimes taking advantage of deductions, but Jarrett, for example, knows exactly which deductions you should be taking, which ones you shouldn't. And also there's ways that you can put deductions, like depreciation is a great example, where you can kind of maximize your depreciation within the limits of what's allowed. And that doesn't hurt us as much as, say, if you took your auto expenses, right? Auto and truck expenses in a certain way on the tax return. So these are the common scenario where
somebody could buy a computer and report it as an office expense, and it's going to hurt them for a mortgage. Whereas if they capitalized it and called it an asset and depreciated it, they would get the write-off for it, but for a mortgage purpose, they would add it back to their income. And so you end up in the same tax place, but it's a matter of understanding which items are add backs and which ones aren't, because they're looking more at cash flow specific. Are you going to continually to have to pay for this item every year? And with something like a computer, it's a 3-year asset or whatever it is, so it shouldn't be a typical expense. But just classification by the bookkeeper can cause problems with things like that. And then on the other end, if you have a whole bunch of entities that have, accelerated depreciation because they're buying vehicles or boats or whatever it is, and they just give Mike the K1, or they just, not Mike, but another broker, the K1, and they just see the net income number, it could be 100,000. But if they don't look back at that corporate return, there could be $200,000 worth of depreciation that got it to that 100,000. So if they don't understand how to trace it back to the original return and see if there was other add backs, then they're just looking at a K1 saying, oh, well, whatever this guy got allocated is, what we're going to pick up as income. Right, Mike?
Yeah. And probably a lot of people we're talking to right now are saying, what's a K1, right? Like, that it's that type of thing.
I forget. I'm sorry.
Well, what is a K1?
Yeah, the K1,
right.
It just reports the partners or the shareholders share. If he owns 20% of the company and they make $100,000, it would show on his K1 his 20% of that 100, so $20,000 of income.
It's the pass-through income that then transfers to your 1040, which you pay taxes, which calculates what you owe for income taxes.
Yeah, I probably lost some people there.
Yeah, but so Jim's a great example. Jim has been self-employed for, I don't know, how old are you, Jim? Almost 70 now. So
that's a great question.
No. So he doesn't really, because he just doesn't. He doesn't have to pay attention because he's got great people under him. And so to get back to the example, so these very common where it's like I can look at previous filed returns and I can say, hey, listen, the way that you've done it in the past, you and your CPA, your income is only this. And so if you really want to, we kind of work backwards. Like if you want to qualify for a $3,000 a month payment, right? You need to have income at this level. And so when you go to prepare your next returns, think about that. And also think about what happens when you're making that kind of income and what you owe to the IRS, because that is something that you need to be responsible for as well.
Yeah, that's why you really need a team that works together, because like what I've learned over the years and being, on the show and working with you guys, is like when I sit down with a client, one of the questions on our questionnaire now that we ask every new client and we ask every year, it's like, are you planning to buy a house, or are you trying to refinance any loans? Like right away.
That's really smart.
What a great like initial interview question. Yeah. That's amazing.
Well, he does it annually. That's awesome. He does it as an annual survey, so because that way.
That's right. You have to know. I mean, it's just part of when we're doing their initial tax review, and we try to get an idea of what's going on, because if they are, then the first thing we're going to do is either call Jim or call Mike, depending on where they are at in the process, because we don't want to move forward with the tax filings until we have an idea of, what direction we need to head in with everything. Because there's different ways to, like you said, different ways to report it. Maybe we need to spend extra time looking at their ledgers and pulling out, computers that were misclassified or things like that.
One of the questions that I always have for you, for Jarrett and Mike, is let's say you have a self-employed person who reported their taxes not in their favor to get the loan that they feel like they need to buy the kind of house that they're looking for, right? But they already filed their taxes. So let's say they come to you in July, okay, and the taxes, and you said, well, have you filed your taxes yet? And you go, yeah, I've already filed my taxes. Does that mean that there's nothing they can do until they file their taxes again the next year? Or is there something that you can do transitory between that period that will allow you to buy the house earlier?
I would feel comfortable looking at the return to see if there was anything like once again, misclassified specifically, or maybe just get an understanding from them of the business to see maybe they expensed all their inventory or something like that is reported wrong. But if they come back and say, hey, I really didn't have that much in expense, or that I really didn't have that much, income, or I had more income, I wouldn't feel comfortable amending it knowing that they're going to go get a loan with it. You know what I mean? So some CPAs may, but unless I had all of this evidence showing me that, hey, this really happened. I'm much more, let's be proactive. Let's work, that route instead of let's try to make it look fitted into the puzzle after we already filed it.
So what Jarrett's talking about is, Jim, after you file, yes, you can amend your return, right? That amended return becomes the return of record. But oftentimes we're looking at 2 years returns. So you need to be thinking about that as well. But yeah, Jarrett's I think what he's saying is, okay, so I'm not going to go report that you had 100,000 of gross receipts and now you got 300,000 of gross receipts. That's not an error, and that's something the IRS would probably look at kind of funny. Although I don't know if they audit returns that pay them,
No, it's more of a me being ethical and having a mortgage fraud issue where it's like, hey, I never had extra cash, but last year I made an extra $200,000 of cash that didn't hit the books, and I need to amend my return to put it on.
I always talk to people, Jim, about technically you kind of do control your own destiny as far as what the return looks like on self-employed borrowers. But I usually say something like, you don't have a lot of control over your gross receipts, right? How much revenue did you have coming into the company? But you do have control over the things that Jarrett is talking about, your expense categories and expenses. Yeah, are you doing? Did you have huge cost of goods sold when really you didn't have a huge cost of goods sold, or did you take assets that are expenses and not treat them as assets or capitalize them as assets? So
yeah, and you don't have to deduct all the expenses. You can you don't. They could be a distribution, in a lot of the situations. So it's if you just plan with them, you can definitely work around it, and also by asking that question. If they are looking at a house, like we just had this situation, Jim, where they were already looking at a house because there was a professional athlete, and because the realtor thought they were going to be good for the loan, because they played professional sports, but they're on
By the way, I forgot to tell you yesterday, everything's good. Remember, you got those 2 phone calls? Everything's good.
Yeah.
Okay.
I actually spoke to him too. That's what I heard.
And the inspection
I
went
was
great.
worried.
Yeah, and the inspection went excellent. So
yeah, and
okay.
it's all thanks to us reaching out to you guys, because we had somebody that was looking, and Mike actually was involved in the beginning as well, but he couldn't do the loan because of the state. But they were a professional football player that was trying to buy a house, and the NFL is not doing long-term contracts like they used to do. It's 1-2 year deals now, maybe 3-year. And so a lot of the guys, when they sign their initial contract, they don't know if they're going to be anywhere for a long period of time. So they wait to year 2 or year 3. All rookie contracts are typically 3 years, and they want to buy a house. But now their contract only has less than a year left on it when they go to buy. So it becomes an issue with the banks because, they're under contract, and there's no guarantee that they're going to sign another, even if they're one of the better players and they have, they may be able to qualify with assets or something. There's other ways to qualify them, right, Mike, besides income.
I mean, there's no scouting team in the underwriting department. I know that much. They're not evaluating players to see if they're going to get re-signed.
Right, exactly. So there's no, to them, there's no guarantee. So it becomes a problem. And we had somebody out there, one of my clients, that called me and was already in love with a house that had never got, and I knew he was on a contract year, and they never pre-approved it. And I've had so many clients that have tried to buy houses that did the exact same thing, that right at closing didn't close, because of the contract. So I reached out to Mike and Jim, and they're in good shape, So
now they got their house. They just had the inspection on Thursday. Everything went well, and we're hoping that it'll just continue to be.
And they're out of state. They're not even in.
Yeah. So what happened was the player plays on the West Coast. They wanted to buy something on the East Coast. It was in North Carolina. I reached out to top agents in North Carolina in the areas they wanted to be in. I vetted all the agents. I found a great agent named John, excellent agent. He plowed through this while he and his wife were going through COVID, and we're still able to form great because they have a team built like our team. So like when one person's down or even 2 people are down, that doesn't mean the business is out of business. Everybody keeps rolling along, support everybody. So it's just been a great experience for everybody, and I'm really proud to have been a little part, have a little piece of that, and a little part of that help. So that's awesome. Hey,
you're super helpful.
Yeah, thank you so much. Look, we're going to take a break right now. We're running a little behind. We're going to take a break. This is Florida Talk Real Estate, your #1 news information provider about all things real estate for consumers. When we come back on the flip side, we're going to talk about, is the market softening? Short answer, yes, whether you believe it or not. And we're going to talk a little bit about that. And we're also going to talk about the most recent county stats that have come out. And later on, I hope we get to this one. There's a spooky house for sale, a haunted house for sale, and I want to talk about it. And I'm looking for a haunted house, and we'll talk about that on the flip side.
I can see clearly now.
The visual aid you need for all the freaky stuff we talk about on the radio. Find it at realradio921.com.
This is former Notre Dame quarterback Brady Quinn. Here's what's trending from the iHeart Sports Network.
Presented by Staples Stores.
Will Fuller is expected to make his Dolphins debut, according to Miami head coach Brian Flores. Fuller was placed on leave following a personal issue that saw him miss Week 2. With the Florida Panthers training camp officially beginning, goalie Sergei Bobrovsky opened up on his playoff benching last year. The 2-time Vezina winner said he wasn't happy, but he's ready to move on. I'm Adam Crowley.
Staples Connect helps your business grow with custom printed sales and marketing materials. Now get 20% off signs, banners, or posters when you spend $75 or more. Explore what's new at your local Staples or staplesconnect.com. Offer ends 10/2. Exclusions apply. Visit staples.com/signage for details. Staples Connect.
Hey, it's your boy Johnny C here, host of Florida Talk Real Estate. They're tops when it comes to helping people buy and sell houses. But Florida Talk Real Estate is so much more than that. For 5 years, I've watched these guys help thousands of our listeners with any real estate need. They couldn't do it without their sponsors, who are experts in their fields. Check it out. Jim DiPaola, powered by Keller Williams Realty. Their team specializes in helping people sell their house for top dollar, and buyers get great deals on the purchase of their home. That's what they did for me and my family, and I couldn't be happier that I hired them for my real estate transaction. Mike Rauch from the mortgage firm is one of our favorite guests on the show, and he is the mortgage guy. Whether you're looking for a refi or a mortgage to purchase a new home, Mike Rauch will get you the answers you need. The mortgage firm is licensed to do loans in Florida, Alabama, Tennessee, and Georgia, and they have local offices that cover all of South Florida. So if you're thinking about a refi or a new mortgage, go to the mortgage guy, Mike Rauch, and find out what he can do for you. The Mortgage Firm, Inc., NMLS 189233, Florida license MLD 78, equal housing lender. The law office of Paul A. Krasker has been specializing in real estate law for nearly 25 years and has the professional team you need. Upside down with your house, Paul's team can help you conduct short sales, loan modifications, even if you're behind on payments. They also help you with foreclosure defense and bankruptcy. They can even help you get a student loan modification and repair your credit to get the score you need. Paul's full-service team has helped thousands of our listeners, and they can help you too. Trident Title LLC is the largest privately owned title company in Florida. When you need a title company to complete a refi, home purchase, or sale, Trident Title has got you covered. Not only do they offer competitive pricing, Trident Title has attorneys on staff to make sure if you have bumps in the road declaring title that you can get the job done. Beware, not all title companies in Florida have attorneys on staff. Trident Title does and complies with all the new federal regulations released last year. Ross Camaronets, owner of Brightway Insurance, has been helping our listeners get great rates on homeowners insurance plans. Haven't checked your homeowners insurance policy in a while? This is a great way to help reduce your monthly mortgage payment. Ross can also help with renters and auto insurance. Ross is only a phone call away and can usually get the answers you need same day.
Call Ross today at 561-425-6228 or drop by his office at 873 Donald Ross Road in Juno Beach.
So now you know why I'm happy to be part of the Florida Talk Real Estate Show, the longest running real estate show in Florida. And all these sponsors are just a phone call or a click away. Just call 888-973-7828. That's 888-973-7828. Or go to floridatalkrealestate.com. That's floridatalkrealestate.com. And don't forget to use the most accurate search engine to find your new home or ask for a free home valuation because floridatalkrealestate.com has you covered. That's floridatalkrealestate.com.
This is Real Radio 92.1 and 101.7. Real talk for the Palm Beaches and the Treasure Coast. This is Florida Talk Real Estate with Jim DiPaola and Johnny C. Got a question for the show? Call us live at 1-877-927-6969.
Jim, you're muted. We're back.
That's your
Jimmy's
cue.
muted. Jimmy D.
Oh, you're on mute.
Yes, this is Jimmy D, and I just proved it for the second time. I miss Johnny so much. Jimmy D is the alter ego of Jim DiPaola, your host of Florida Talk Real Estate, the #1 information news provider of all things consumer related for real estate in Florida, and also your team lead for the Florida Home Pros with Keller Williams Realty. And we've got a really great lineup today. We have Mike Rauch from the mortgage firm. How are you doing today, Mike?
I'm doing great. Thank you very much. Nice to be here once again.
Thank you for letting me know I was muted. And we have AJ Hollman from Experienced Appraisers. Thank you so much for being on the show today.
Hey, how you doing?
Good, good. And we got Jarrett Perry from Perry CPA Group and also Player Performance First.
Always great to be here. Good to see you.
Have we decided if it's Perry CPA Group or Perry Group CPA?
It's it's Perry CPA.
Perry CPA. Okay. I wasn't sure what to put on the title today.
Yeah, Perry CPA.
Hey, We're going to get into the market for this next segment. And then after that, we have some big news for people that are going to do conventional loans. There's some changes to the guidelines that hopefully will help out consumers. Mike Rauch from the mortgage firm is going to go over that with us. I think we just lost Jarrett for a second. Hopefully he'll come back. But we can continue on with the market report. So the monthly market came out. The monthly report came out for all of Florida. But as you know, that our team directly covers 6 counties in the area, the Florida Home Pro team with Keller Williams. We cover Dade County, Broward County, Palm Beach County, Martin County, St. Lucie County, and Indian River County. Yeah, we're nuts. Okay, we love selling. We love Florida. We love all parts of Florida. We work all those areas. But after I went through all 6 counties' reports for just the single-family homes this time, guys, because the condo townhome has a different report, but I didn't have time to go over that. And the condo market is a little different than the single-family home market, so I wanted to keep apples to apples as best I could. So really, Palm Beach County is all these counties have similar statistics, but Palm Beach County I'm going to use is the one, and it pretty much reflects on what's happening in all those counties. Okay, so I was mentioning for a couple of weeks now, at least 3 or 4 weeks, that I felt like we were going to start going through a market shift. And I think that we have some proof that we're leaning more towards that than this continued trend of fueling this increase in property values that are so high. So let me go over this just for a second and make my case here about why I think the market is softening. Okay, so we hit a peak for single-family home median prices in June 2021, and it hit 500,000. And if I'm not mistaken, I don't think single-family homes in Palm Beach County had ever hit 500,000 before, not even during the last big boom, which was it ended in 2006. Do you remember, AJ, if we ever went over 500,000 for median sales price?
I was just sitting here thinking about it. I focus on micro markets. I really don't.
Mm-hmm. I totally get it.
So I don't pay as much attention to those stats.
And I'm glad you said that, AJ, because what I want to say is what I'm talking about is the county averages. And we always say that real estate is a block by block, not just neighborhood by neighborhood, but block by block process. So you can't just take the information I'm telling you now and think that reflects directly to your house. You really need to get a professional in there to help you determine the value of the home. So don't just take this information and take it that way. Some neighborhoods right now are still increasing very fast, and some neighborhoods have slowed down a lot, but this is an overall matrix of everything. So in June of 2021, we hit $500,000 for median price. Now, just to put in that perspective, in January, we were only at 422. So we went from 422 to 500 in that 6 months. Okay. Everybody, if you're not watching on video, everybody's shaking their head like now, all these professionals, accountant, appraiser, mortgage broker, mortgage loan officer, they're all sitting there shaking their heads like this is unbelievable appreciation. Then in July, for the first time, well, I shouldn't say that. I learned something here. Then in July, instead of going up in price, it actually remained flat. July, again, we hit 500,000 exactly flat. And it was the first month over month flat time we've had in quite a while. And then I was saying last month in the middle of August, well, because the stats come out about 3 weeks late. So in August, at the beginning of August, I was like, I'm seeing from the deals that we're doing that things are starting to slow down a little bit. And I was seeing that if houses aren't priced right, they're on days on market or significantly longer. And also that I'm seeing more price reductions. I started seeing more price reductions as they went on. So then the August report came out. I'm sorry?
Is there inventory changing, or is it still?
We're going to get there. We're going to get there. Okay. I'm just talking prices now, but I promise we're going to get there. So the 480 is where we are in August, was 480. Okay. So 480 is a 4% drop from 500. It's not a big deal because we're talking 30 to 60 days. But what I'm saying is that we've been on a pretty strong trajectory upward for quite a long time, over 12 months. and we're starting to see a little flattening. I'm not talking about a huge reduction. 4% is not the end of the world when you're looking at 13 to 18% appreciation for the year. But here's the thing that's kind of interesting to notice is that we in April we were at 466,000, and if you were average the last 12 months of the median sale price, we're only at 465. So really, we went back. This 480 is bringing us back to about May of this year of what the median sales price is. Okay, so that's the first thing. The second thing is exactly what Jarrett was talking about, which is inventory. With the inventory, it's crazy what we have right now, guys. Okay, so a normal inventory is about 6 months. Some people say 9 months, but I always believe it's 6 months. And what does that mean? 6 months inventory means that if no other houses go on the market, it would take 6 months based on current market sales to gobble up all the inventory. 6 months is a flat market. It's not in favor of the buyer. It's not in favor of the seller. It's just kind of like a neutral market. That's the mark, 6 months. In Palm Beach County, we're at 1.4 months right now. 1.4. That's kind of scary when you think about it. 45 days. If we continue with the sales as they are right now and nobody else put their house on the market, it would take 45 days to gobble up all the homes, hypothetically, that all the buyers match and everything. That's pretty crazy, right? Versus 180. So that's one of the things that are keeping the prices up right now is that low inventory without a doubt. But what we're also seeing is that the amount of applications for mortgages are going down. The amount of pending sales in Palm Beach County are going down for this month. Like our pending sales are weaker, which is telling me the buyers have had enough. And also that we've hit price points that even the super, super low interest rates are still not. We're getting to price points where even the low interest rates can't entice as many buyers that are qualified to buy our home into the market. There's a lot of buyers that are just saying, I'm going to wait and see what happens with this.
Jim, is the inventory down from the past 6 months or the past couple quarters, or that's where it's been? I know it's been low already.
It's been under 2 for like 6 months or so, but just to put it into perspective, a year ago we were at 3 months, and 3 months sucks too, by the way. Yeah. Okay, if you're a buyer, go ahead, AJ.
On all the appraisals, we do the MC form, which is a Fannie Mae statistical analysis, and I haven't had anything over probably 60 or 70 days average or median in probably 6 months. And a year ago, like normal conditions are up to 180 days. It goes in blocks, 0 to 90, 91 to 180, 180 and up. We used to be at 180 or less, which is a pretty normal market. And I haven't seen it get above 90 in the recent past that I can remember. It's just been on fire, on fire, on fire.
It's crazy.
There's only 2,300 homes available in August. There are only 2,369 single family homes available for sale at any price point in Palm Beach County. Now think about that. We have about 2 million residents. But so we got 2,369 homes that were for sale. Okay. Total in the state of Florida, we a year ago we had 55,000 homes for sale. Now we have 37,000 homes for sale. So this is happening throughout most of the state. That's why I can pick one county and be confident to talk to you about trends, because they almost mirror they're very close to mirroring everything. Now, a couple other things.
Everybody thinks the market's booming and doing so well is because the people are paying. There's no inventory there. It's not that there's all these properties really selling. Like I think we were talking about last show. It's not like there's a ton of people moving out and selling, and it's just that there's no inventory.
Yeah, it's not extremely high volume. It's just there's just not. If you're trying to buy and there's nothing there for you or very little, it's very competitive.
Absolutely.
Yeah, to most people, they assume that's because there's houses selling. You know, everyone I talk is like, "Oh, houses are selling everywhere like crazy." You know, that's what you hear from everybody. But
that's true, Jarrett. So the houses that do go on the market do sell like crazy for the most part. Okay,
right, but there's not that many.
But there aren't that many on the market that are. It isn't like back in the boom in 2003 to 2005. Everybody had their house for sale. I mean, you couldn't shove a for sale sign in the yard fast enough before somebody bought it, usually off market, because everybody was buying everything because they were using free money. It was all fake money. They were getting these fake loans to buy these houses back then, right?
Well,
So it's really so there's only two things. There's only going to be two things that are going to change this market. There's only two things that can change this market right now, without any kind of unforeseen world wars or catastrophes or something like that. Thank you, Jarrett. We have a caller. This is Jimmy. Pepe wants to call in. We're going to talk to him in just 2 seconds. Pepe will get you in just a second. Hold tight. Thank you, Jarrett. There's only two things that can really affect this market to make it a stronger situation for the buyers, and that's going to be increase in inventory or the interest rates change, and that's going to reduce prices, right? Larger inventory could reduce prices or interest rates. Now, the low inventory,
saying interest rates going up?
Interest rates going up. Now, the
that's
low
going to help the buyers?
I'm sorry?
That's going to help the buyers?
Well, it will help the buyers as far as the prices going down, but they're going to be paying more on the interest rate. And there's a formula there, which I promise we're going to sit down, Mike, and do that video. We haven't gotten to it yet. But the bottom line is nothing's going to change this fueling market except for more inventory or the interest rates change. And the reason why I'm saying interest rates going up, that's going to make even less buyers want to continue the market, and it's going to flatten everything out, supply and demand. But here's the thing. Inventory, that's not going to be fixed for years. There's no way that all of a sudden we're going to go from 1.4 months of inventory to 6 months of inventory. One of the reasons why we have such low inventory is the builders has been very slow to catch up from the crash. They never really caught up from the crash because they never trusted the market. At first, it was like, well, we don't know if the market's going to get strong enough to start building. We're going to buy the land, but we're going to hold on to it. Then when they felt that they were going to dip their toes in the water, instead of building middle-class homes, like affordable homes, they went for luxury because they got a bigger spread. But there's less luxury buyers than there are regular working class, middle-class buyers. But they weren't really being serviced at the beginning with the developers. Everything was luxury. Then what happened was, then they started getting concerned because of COVID. Then it became the supply issue. First, it was just COVID itself, Jarrett. Then it was the supplies, right? So there's just been excuse after excuse after excuse. And the funny part is the economy, when you look back over all those years, we've been growing, right? Prices have been going up consistently for many, many years. There was a little flattening in 2018, but since 2015, it's been up every year. And the developers never just embraced it for whatever reason. So there's no way that there's going to be an increase of inventory anywhere quickly enough to change this dynamic. But what will happen, and what I expect to happen very, very soon, is the report that came out from Jerome Powell from the Federal Reserve. And he just came out with the report just last week, I think it was Thursday or Wednesday, where he's saying that they want to start doing tapering, which is they don't want to buy as many mortgage-backed securities, which has been propping up the real estate market. And that's the first. But what Powell is saying, we're going to do that, but at the same time, we're not going to. It shouldn't affect the interest rates for homeowners, right, Mike? Am I on point with this, Mike? So far?
Yeah, both of those. But
the thing is, I don't believe Powell about the interest rates not changing once they do the tapering. And I have proof of it. I have proof. Okay. All you have to do is look back to 2018. 2018 is the proof of what's going to happen. Prologue is prelogue or whatever they say about that thing. I don't know that saying. Maybe I shouldn't have said it. Another Jimmy D there. But here's the thing. when they started changing around the interest rates between banks back in 2018, we went through the fastest increase of mortgage rates in the history of the United States. We went from 3.5 on average, basically about middle of 2018. And by December 2018, we were at 5.49%. And when you go back, we had done a report about market stats for the year about 3 or 4 shows ago. And when I checked the last 5 years of stats for each of the counties, the funny part was, and I forgot about this, 2018 was a flat year. I think it had like 3% appreciation or something, like a normal year, 3%, right? So 2018 was flat. The only thing that was different about 2018 than 2017 or 2019 or 2020 was the interest rates. So once these interest rates start going up, the buyers are going to have to pull out because of affordability. The sellers that want to sell, they're going to have less buyers. It might not affect them as bad right away because there's so little inventory, but eventually the sellers are going to have to start dropping their prices to meet the buyers' needs because of the interest rates. And that's what's probably going to be the next cycle that's happening.
Don't forget, Jim, that market
I always think about the affordability because of.
These.
I'm sorry, Mike first, and then Jarrett. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I was saying that the market sentiment also affects these rates, right? So you do have the federal increases, and so when they're increasing the short-term lending, does it have an immediate effect on long-term mortgages or mortgage-backed securities? No, but does it start a trend in an upward direction? I think that there's good evidence for that. But also remember there was a pretty big spike right at the end of 2016. I don't know if you remember what happened at the end of, November-ish 2016. But
no, what happened there, Mike?
That was a presidential election year, and so rates spiked based on the market, right? Thinking, hey, wait a second, something's going to happen with the economy in this next administration, and so we had a spike there that kind of started that increase into 2018, along with the Fed's stance on the short-term lending, the bank-to-bank lending. So I don't know. I hate to play the prediction game, but I do like looking at these historical trends and kind of determining where it's gonna land us. I agree with you. The increases in interest rates it's gonna simply lessen the buyer pool, and when there's less buyers out there, there's inventory is going to increase. And so does it level off? Probably. Does it come down? Does it crash down? No. Right? Does it level off and hold steady? But you could buy the same house now. This is that analysis. You buy the same house now at 3%, and you pay less money a year from now, but you're paying 4% interest. You might end up with the exact same payment, right?
Or even paying higher.
Yeah. Or even
at the lower purchase price, you could end up paying higher.
And I love that saying that people buy based on payment, not on price. And that's true. I mean, when people go out and look, they don't really care.
And a lot of times they're buying it based on.
That's true.
It's more of, can they afford it? Is this a payment that I can make and be comfortable?
Yep, and that interest rate effect. But let Jarrett, you were going to say something?
Yeah, I think mine's behind because I'll start talking and then I hear somebody else. Can you guys hear me okay?
I can hear you okay now.
I was talking about the affordability and
I think we lost.
I was talking about the affordability. I don't know if it's freezing up. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Guys, go ahead.
Mike, you were going to say something? I'm sorry, Jarrett.
I was going to, AJ just kind of outlined my general philosophy, which is you make these moves, unless you're like a really savvy investor, you kind of make these decisions based on your employment situation. How stable is it? What's the trending? What can you expect trending on your income? And can you get into a payment that is affordable for you where you're not going to get in trouble, even if the house comes down in value a little bit?
Absolutely.
Right? Or even if it comes down a lot. So you make these decisions based on, is it right for my family at this time? And can we get into a spot that's comfortable for us? Right. Yep. Forget about what Fannie and Freddie or FHA or VA say I qualify for. What's my budget look like? And can I anticipate being able to not get in trouble? So.
Absolutely. And if you have questions, go ahead, Jarrett.
No, go ahead.
Okay. If you guys have any questions about, like, is it a good time to buy a house or not, and maybe I should wait or not, it doesn't have to be a definite yes or no. It could just be a conversation to get some coaching to figure out what would be best for your situation. And we're here for that. So if you have any questions about that, we can get you over to Mike to figure out what you can afford and based on your budget. And I can tell you what you could sell your house for if you need to do that. And then also show you based on the budget that you and Mike work out for affordability, that we can go in there and find out what you could buy for what your budget is, and then see if all of that looks like it lines up that makes you happy for the move. Some people find out that they're not happy, that they'd rather stay put. Others feel like they gotta do it now because they don't like the idea of that if they wait another 2 years, let's say, that there could be a 10 or 15% drop possibly on the value of the home, and it just bothers them too much, so they'd rather sell it now. We can go over all those scenarios with you and figure out what's best. But we're very, very late for Pepe. I forgot Pepe was on the line. So, Jimothy, is Pepe still on the line?
Sure is. Now Pepe's on the air.
Oh, awesome, man. Thank you so much, Pepe.
That's okay. I listen to you guys every week. Long story short, I talked to Johnny C. and Mike last week. They spent about 45 minutes with me, went through my whole situation. Came down to the fact that it really wasn't going to help me out to refinance, but I had to call because I was just very impressed by how much time they spent with me explaining the whole thing to me. I can tell you this, I feel like I'm being left behind because I can't really do anything because of my situation. But again, I wanted to thank them for helping me. And one question I have to ask, and this is my lack of knowledge in the real estate business, but when the economy tanked the last time, because I had to refinance then in order to save my house, which fortunately I was able to do. But that being said, am I right or wrong in thinking that my house that I bought for $280,000 back in 2005 dropped in price almost in half, or over that period of time? Is that possible?
So wait, you're saying that your house was worth, you paid $284 to 2005, but today it's only worth $140?
No. When the economy, during the period the economy went down so drastically, could the house have actually
yes,
appreciated that much?
Yes. Absolutely. The average home lost about 40%, and some lost way more. Some lost 60% of value. So to hear 50%, you're right in that ballpark. Is that crazy?
That's crazy.
Well, I guess my point being, at this stage in life, I'm 68 years old, unfortunately, because of my financial situation. That being said, I feel like it's because I can't really do anything at this time. It doesn't really make sense. I'm okay. I'm doing okay, but I'm afraid the same thing's going to happen again. And then that's because of my age.
Well, thank you for saying that, because that I'm going to keep you on the air, Pepe, because I was going to do a fun fact thing that ties into all this. Okay, so I'm going to ask you guys, I'm going to ask Pepe, Mike, AJ, and Jarrett to answer these questions. Okay, so last month in Palm Beach County, how many of the homes? There were about 1,600 single-family homes that sold in Palm Beach County, right? And I don't know how, I don't have it off the top of my head of condos and townhomes. So figure roughly roughly 3,000 homes sold in condos, townhomes, and single-family homes sold in Palm Beach County roughly in August. 3,000. How many of those were foreclosures? Okay, I'm going to ask Pepe first. Pepe, how many foreclosures do you think out of the 3,000 sales?
I would say very little.
Okay, that's a nice, safe answer. Okay, Mike, what about your answer?
Pepe knows how to play this game.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm gonna say
refers it to the mortgage guy. Go ahead.
78.
78 out of 3,000. AJ?
I'm gonna say 30.
30? Okay, think about this. These are professionals, guys. Listen to the show. Okay, these guys are professionals, and they're saying out of 3,000, 78 and 30. Okay, and what do you think, Jarrett?
Say in the 90s, 95.
Okay, 95. There were seven foreclosure sales in the whole county in August.
Wow.
Now, how many short sales? I'm going to ask Pepe again. By the way, Pepe was right. Out of you guys, Pepe got
Very little.
Right.
Very little.
Not too many.
Yeah. Very little.
Okay, Pepe, what do you think for short sales?
I'd say 10%.
Okay, 10%. So that would be 300. Okay, Mike.
I must have freaked you out, Jim, when I said my answer because I said 70. And you're like,
I know.
did he just say 7? Short sales. I don't know. It's probably not that many more. I don't know. 16. How about that? 16.
Okay, AJ.
5.
Okay, Jarrett.
21.
7. So there were 14 short sales and foreclosures out of 3,000 sales. So that comes out to 1/2, just a little less than 0.5%. 0.5%. Now, what's a normal foreclosure rate in the United States? 1 to 3%. We're actually below the foreclosure average now. There are, I want to hear what you have to say, Jared, but I just want to say this. There are all these coaches out there right now trying to have agents pay money to learn how to do short sales and foreclosures. I'm getting bombarded with advertising. Hey, do you want to be a foreclosure agent? Take these classes to learn how to be a top foreclosure agent or short sale agent. And I'm like, for what? I'm an expert on that stuff anyway, but for what? Right? Because you're talking about 7 homes out of 3,000. So even if this quadrupled, we'd be 28 homes. Right? It'd be 28 homes for each market. But so what I'm saying is there's no, getting back to Pepe, there's really no reason to think we're going to have a crash. And I know that people said that back in the day too. Okay, that definitely happened. I remember people used to yell at me because I was saying that there was a bubble in 04 and 05, and everybody used to say, quit jinxing everything. So I understand that when you hear there really isn't a crash coming, you know, we've heard that story before, but there's no dynamics underneath to show that there's any systemic institutional problems that are going to cause a crash. Everybody getting a loan right now is super vetted. They're super vetted. They're not getting loans like candy. There's no inventory. So all the reasons why the prices are going up and the people buying the homes, it's all legit. There's no hokey pokey going on. Jarrett?
What about, Jim, I was going to say, what about the money being pumped into the economy? Is that an indicator of, the false strength of the overall economy?
Well, consumer index is down a little bit, and it's been down for a couple months, and the confidence for consumers has been down the lowest it's been in quite a while, all because of COVID. Once the Delta variant came back, everybody thought this summer was just going to be awesome, me included. How many, most of what I said happened. Everybody went on vacation. The economy was really strong. People kind of ignored Delta. But when Delta got really, really bad, it's starting to clamp the economy down again. So we are in a rocky road right now. Jarrett, though, you were going to say something? I'm sorry, Jarrett.
No, you guys are good. My I think mine's running a little behind. So I was, after you went over the numbers, I was just thinking that really makes a lot of sense because they just had all this COVID relief they offered for mortgages. So they were helping people, with their mortgages, right, Mike? When there are all these programs they could get into if they're behind on their mortgages or to not pay their mortgages during COVID.
The CARES Act basically allowed people for up to 18 months to not make their mortgage payment, and so that was, I think, needed. They're trying to avoid a foreclosure crisis because that was one of the things that brought values down, which, that was kind of like a snowball, right? So values came down, and everyone's like, I'm not going to pay my mortgage. So that was a much needed.
Yeah, they were trying to
effort.
prevent foreclosures,
and they're still doing that, Jim. Which I think is gonna. It goes to your point that the foreclosures are going to remain low because they don't want this foreclosure snowball and value depreciation snowball to happen. So they're really, really working with people to try and put them into a situation where they can continue to keep their home, make their mortgage payment. The big lenders, the mortgage-backed securities world in general, does not want a bunch of foreclosures to start to come on the books.
The scariest part of the real estate economy to right now is nationwide and locally is the rental market. Excuse me. I think that's where the real pain's going to be because of the evictions. All that money wasn't spent that was given to the state to help the landlords and the tenants work things out. It just wasn't spent. And there's a lot of people. It's pretty scary when you read the national numbers. Excuse me. How many
so the actual renters that have mortgages on their property.
Well, the renters were allowed not to pay the landlords. And now the landlords
not the renters.
Go ahead.
The landlords.
Yeah, the landlords that have the properties with the tenants, they're not getting relief on their mortgages on the property. So if they don't own it free and clear, they're not cash flowing to be able to pay that mortgage. That's where maybe the foreclosures are coming from, because with all the relief they've been offering and all the price appreciation, unless somebody loses their job, it would only really be a short sale in that situation. I mean, how are they going to be upside down on their home unless they bought it? I mean,
I think that's the key that you just said there, Jarrett, is even if somebody gets in trouble right now, there's still people that get in trouble for all kinds of reasons. But the appreciation's been so strong that instead of foreclosing or short selling, they're just selling. And there's still some residual money there.
Yes, that's absolutely true, AJ, because back in the old days when we first started the show, that's all we did was short sales. The first year I was on WZCR, I was on the show for 52 weeks live. We picked up 51 listings. I picked up a listing a week, right? 51 short sales, no regular sales. That's all we did. AJ's laughing at me right now. 51 short sales. So we cut our teeth. We were thrown into the fire, and it's like you're going to get hardened the hard way, right? And we went through that gauntlet and we did excellent. I think we had a 92% close rate on our short sales when the national average was like 60. But the difference is if somebody's behind on the mortgage right now, they usually have a ton of equity. So it's a very sad situation if they have to leave their house and they don't want to, but at least they're not walking away destitute the way that short sale people were. You know what I mean? They walk away with money in their pocket. They might have to rent for a year, let's say, or maybe two, to get back on track for qualify for a mortgage. And then if they're sharp and they can hold on to that money, it's a great down payment to put on the next home. But I agree that that the equity in people's houses, AJ, that's going to save a lot of people. And even if we do drop like even 10 or 15%, most people have more than 10%, nationally speaking.
Yeah.
The Fed statistics show that most people have more than 10 or 15% equity in their home. So even if they lose that, they're still probably not going to be short sale candidates.
Yeah.
Right. They're going to be a regular sale. They're just going to have to pay off the bank with their profits.
Jim, it's a really good time to point out, and we've talked about it before, that listen, there's still people here who are coming towards the end of their COVID forbearance period, right? It's going to be, depending on when you started, it may have already ended. You may be in a repayment phase or, starting to pay again. But if things have not stabilized for you, if you're in a spot where you think you're going to be missing a mortgage payment, which is then going to trigger the servicing lender to, start their loss mitigation, foreclosure process, whatever. Don't let yourself get to that point. Jim, you said maybe you have to wait a year or two to get back on your feet. You don't have to wait that long if you haven't missed a payment.
That's
right.
true.
So don't get to the spot where that first mortgage payment that you're expected to pay is going to be late. Right. If you know that's coming, please give Jim a call. At the very least, you can see what kind of equity you have. What if you did have to sell, where would you be in position for the next step, whether you're renting or buying or downsizing or whatever it is. So just a good time to mention that. Don't let yourself get to where your mortgage payments are late.
Thank you, Mike. This is Florida Talk Real Estate, the #1 information provider for all things all things real estate for consumers. And here's another great segment and a piece of advice that Mike gave. It just proves that the value that we give. If you want to talk to us live, all you got to do is call 877-927-6969. Or if you want to call off air because you're shy, no big deal. Just call 888-973-7828. Or just go to Florida Talk Real Estate. Google us. We're everywhere. Just go to our website. There's all these ways to contact us. We're looking forward to helping you out. We are doing a deal, just to wrap up on this. We are doing a deal right now, our first deal, where somebody is being threatened for foreclosure after taking the 18 months of the forbearance. And they've decided that luckily for them, they don't really have a need for the house anymore. So what they're going to do is they're in the process of selling it right now, and they're going to make some equity on that house. And their attitude is, I want to get this over now, because if the market does shift, I don't want to lose any more equity that I already have. And the other thing is, while the bank is threatening foreclosure, they have not started the process. And one of the things that consumers need to know, that once they do file what's called the list pendants, which is when you get served for foreclosure, it's basically a fancy word that you've been served for the lawsuit that they've sued you for, because foreclosure is the lawsuit. When they do that, there's all these charges that automatically rack up against you besides your late payments and the late fees and all that. Now they're going to charge you for process serving, filing the paperwork in the courthouse, which they have to do, and hiring the attorney to foreclose on you. All of those fees start racking up immediately, instantly, once they do the list pendants. That's usually thousands of dollars right there. Boom. You just lost $3,000, $5,000 to your equity of your home. Boom, that quick. It's over. Okay. Then all the late payments. Then the late fees they charge you. Then the accrued interest. Now, I don't know if that'll happen, Mike, with all the, because this is new, because COVID, you did have protections for some of this, but I don't know if those protections remain in effect if you miss a payment. Like, after they said, hey, we want you to start paying, and you don't pay. I wonder if they can accrue the interest, charge the late fees, put it on your credit report.
For the whole period they missed?
Yeah, because right now, COVID, if you miss the payment, the way it's supposed to work, if you have a federally backed loan, no late payments sent to the credit bureau, no accrued interest, no late fees, basically no penalty for missing the payments at all. Basically.
Right. Just the principal just gets added to the back.
Yes, it's supposed to. That's not clear.
You have to the back because it's not accruing interest.
The concept is the federal government recommends that they put it on the back end of the loan, but the lender doesn't have to. Go ahead, Mike.
Yeah, I was going to say. So, Jarrett, that's kind of a separate thing. So the missed principal and interest payments and missed escrow payments do have to be dealt with one way or the other coming out of forbearance, right? So whether they're pushing it to the back or trying to give you on a payment plan to make it up, that's various. But what Jim is talking about is you're not getting penalized for any of those missed principal and interest payments or escrow payments, right? You're not accruing interest on the missed principal and interest payments. But I don't know, Jim. It's almost like, when you do
But if you miss one, he's wondering if all of a sudden all that accrued interest from the previous payments, like a credit card company would do to you, if you
didn't pay it off in your,
and then you miss the payment, they're going to.
I was going to say the same thing. Like if you do that promotional 6 months, 0% on the furniture, right? If you don't pay it off within the 6 months, they take that 6 months of interest that you have, bypassed, and they tack it onto the bill. I haven't read anything that says that would happen, but I haven't looked at it closely enough to know. But my gut tells me no.
I would not be surprised if that does happen later on. There are ways to cure this. There are a lot of ways to cure this. If you can't make up your back payments, but you have a job and you can show that you can make your regular payment, they should just let you do the refi if you had to. Like if you couldn't stay in comply with the forbearance terms, just give them the darn refi and make the refi, add all that stuff into the loan right away if you had to. Better than losing the house to foreclosure.
Well, even better than that, Jim. And I've seen this. This is happening. They're not refinancing. They're simply taking the missed principal, interest, and escrow payments, and making them a balloon on the back end of the loan, right? So you just go back to your regular term loan. You're making the same payments you were before forbearance. Your escrow hasn't increased other than the normal variations in tax insurance, and they're sticking it on the back end. Now, you do have to deal with that at the end of your loan term, right? Or if you were to sell or refinance at that point, that money has to be repaid. But that's like best case scenario, assuming you were in a payment that is now back to being affordable. If your income hasn't recovered and you're never going to be able to make the payment you had before, that's when you really gotta figure out what the next step is. That's the hard choice to make.
Yes, it is. So look, this all can be very complicated. We're one phone call away. We give you free advice. You just heard Pepe call just a little while ago. We didn't do a deal with him. Mike didn't do a deal with him, but our team spent 45 minutes trying to figure out what was his best option. He wasn't really happy with the answer, but we gave him the truth, while other companies might have just tried to grab money from him by trying to say, sure, you could try to do the refi or whatever, even though it might not be his best interest, because in today's market, there's many people that can qualify for refi, but it's not in their best interest. And we're the kind of people that are going to tell you, hey, you could do this if you want, but I wouldn't do it if I were you, and let me explain why. Right? So it's really important. So if you need help, we're one phone call away, 888-973-7828. For the last 10 minutes of the segment, we're going to take a break, Jimmy, at 10:30. I'm sorry about the 10 o'clock. I wanted to talk to AJ and Mike about a deal we did a little while ago where the house appraised very, very low. We did close it. Congratulations to Joe and Jay. They bought a beautiful waterfront property down in Wilton Manors, but we had a lot of problem with it. We put the house on the market. We didn't put the house on the market. Natalie Medina Rao was the buyer's agent for Joe and Jay. And what happened was they found a property for about $1 million flat, waterfront property in Wilton Manors. Natalie negotiated to $940. They took it. Then when the appraisal came in at $745 on a $940 sale. And when I told AJ that yesterday, what was your comment on that?
It was shock. I don't remember exactly, but I've never heard of such a large increase that you got, by going back on the appraisal.
Well, yeah, that was the one thing. So when I told AJ that we went back for a value reconsideration, right, Mike? We went back and I put all this paperwork together and we submitted it to the appraiser to ask them to bring the price up. When I told AJ that we got a price just a little above 800, so it went from 745 to a little over 800, which was still way below the 940 that was under contract. But he was surprised that the appraiser even went up the $65,000 higher, and he was very surprised.
I mean, that's unbelievable. That's just unheard of. And I haven't seen the appraisal. I don't know the situation exactly or whatever, but just that fact going from the 745 to 805 is just unheard of. I don't know. I'm still in shock, so I don't really know what to say.
Maybe they added a couple hundred square feet to it instead of taking it away like they did on.
We'll see. That would make sense. If Jim had found, a comp next door that sold by owner and hadn't recorded yet and wasn't shown in MLS, okay, that's a really good reason. That's a great comp to use that was missed inadvertently, and that would explain why. But that's not what the appraiser did. He just went up based off the fact that he hadn't made time adjustments previously. And Jim had pointed out that he should make time adjustments because he had indicated in the report that it was an increasing market. He used a sale that was 5 or 6 months old and hadn't time adjusted that. But
yeah, that means he just didn't do his job on the appraisal the first time. Because Jim shouldn't have to point out these additions. Thank God they have a good realtor that can do that stuff. But you would think that the appraiser would be able to, include those items in the price.
Exactly.
Here is the interesting part. When you do a value reconsideration, what you have to do is you have to present it the way that an appraiser wants it presented. You can't just say, here's a property, here's a property. You have to justify and kind of put your thinking in. At least that's when that's how I've learned to be the most effective, because I always tell everybody, hey, look, if we're going to do a value reconsideration, which is basically, hey, we don't like your appraisal, and you're telling the appraiser, hey, we don't like what you did. Like Jarrett says, hey, you didn't do your job, right? You can't go in that way because people will shut you down. So you got to be professional, take the emotion out of it. But here's the thing. I tell all my people when I'm trying to do a value reconsideration, which is very time consuming to do the research and the presentation. But I tell them, look, we have a 5% chance that they're going to change the price. You know what I mean? In our favor. It's 5% chance it's going to happen. I'm sorry, you think that's high?
Well, as a market average, I would think it's definitely high.
Yeah,
No, not a 5% increase or change in the price, but 5% that it's going to move at all.
Yeah,
right? That means 95% he's not going to adjust the value.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Yeah,
So you only have a 5% chance that they're going to agree with you on any level. So what I found surprising about this one was I gave him like 4 properties that I felt were better comps, because like he picked properties that didn't have a garage and ours did. And one of the properties he picked wasn't on the water at all, which I didn't understand because this is intercoastal access area. But we did understand, I did find out after I did the comps why the value was at 940 and it came down to, 800 eventually, was because we were on the farthern western edges of this neighborhood, and not even a 3/4 of a mile away in the same neighborhood, the house, all the waterfront properties didn't have any fixed bridges. But our area has fixed bridges, so you can't put in the same kind of boats. So therefore, the property becomes less valuable. Jarrett, who's a huge boat guy, is shaking his head in agreement.
That would drive me crazy. Yeah, I mean, you can't, if you want to, it's not the same thing living on the water where you can't take a boat with a T-top out and living on the water where you can. There should definitely be a huge discount on the houses with the fixed bridges, in my opinion.
Well, and that's still in the submarket, and being a boater myself from South Florida, there's water depths, there's front footage, there's the seawall, there's fixed bridges versus non-fixed bridge. There's so many different things, and you really need to know your market if you're going to be appraising those homes. And I mean, any home that that you're appraising, you should know the market drivers. But somebody like Jarrett, he's the average buyer for that property. They're going to know those things. They're going to pay attention to those things.
Yeah.
Like AJ, where I just put my boat lift in at dead low tide, or even like a pretty low tide, I can't get the boat out because the lift hits the bottom. And that happens everywhere. I mean, all over, but people don't think about that. And that to me is a huge, they can blow it out, and so you can get out, but it'll fill back in, and that's something that continues to cost money to have to pay for. People don't think about it.
I think this is a great example, a great lesson, Jim, where there's just, there were so many things on the real estate side, on the lending side, on the appraiser side, and also with the buyer themselves, right? So remember, this home was listed at $1 million. Right. So the listing agent had the sellers convinced, or the sellers had the listing agent convinced that they should be getting $1 million for this home because something else in their surrounding neighborhood is selling for somewhere around that price. And then they went on and accepted a financed offer that has an inherent appraisal contingency. So they're not getting a cash offer. They're accepting a financed offer, which was negotiated a pretty good chunk below their list price. The buyers were aware probably that it might not appraise there, and we had some space, right? We had some additional cash reserves to kind of make up some gaps. Yeah. But then it comes in and it's $200,000 below your list price. Yeah,
$195,000 below the contracted price.
And so nobody's anticipating that scenario.
No, nobody. So this is what happened. This is what I found was so interesting. I gave him all the comps. He rejected all of my comps, even though I felt my comps were better. But what he did do was I put in the report that he did mention in the report, you're supposed to put in the report whether it's an inclining, a declining, or a stable. I think the word is stable neighborhood or whatever.
Increasing, decreasing, and stable.
Stable, right? So they actually have to take that in consideration as part of the federal guidelines. What do they call that? ASAP or USAP or something like that? USAP. I learned that last time you were here. I learned
Pat.
that last time. Oh, UPAP, not SAP. Pat. Sorry, Pat. I'm making up my own.
We'll practice after the show, Jim.
Yeah. It's kind of like learning Spanish where you forget about it, ain't having it. So here's the thing.
Okay.
When they did give us the bump, significant, compared to what the appraisal was, a significant bump. My argument was, yes, you included it as an inclining neighborhood, but this is a super inclining neighborhood with super desirable neighborhood, tons of activity, and you pick comps that were like AJ said, 5 or 6 months old. A lot's happened in 5 or 6 months in this kind of market, and that's why he gave us the big bump. Now we were still over $100,000 below at that point from the contracted price, and the seller needed to get a certain price to do what he wanted to do after he sold, after the house was sold. So believe it or not, the buyer in this case was very sophisticated. I really great working with this family, and they decided that they were going to buy it above appraised value and gave extra money on top of the appraised value to buy the house. And their argument was this: we've been looking for months and months. We know what's out there. I was willing to pay $940,000 for this house, and now I'm paying significantly less than I expected to, more than the appraised value. But I know I can't find anything else right now that would be better to walk. It's not worth walking away from this. I'd rather pay above appraised value because there's nothing else better out there for me. And that's the kind of market we're in. I'm sorry, Jerry.
The fixed bridge may not have value to them, So when they're looking,
they're not voters. They're not voters.
So when they're looking at the other comparable houses, they're houses that don't have fixed bridges. So they're thinking, "Oh wow, why is this one so much more?"
But it's also, look, there's a lot of people that are paying over the appraised value right now. Even in my neighborhood, I think the last 3 sales of my model have gone, whatever 3% over what the appraised value was. But it's what you were describing, Jim, is what we call in appraising the theory of replacement. Okay, and so like right now for appraisals, we include at least one, usually 2 actives. And the reason we do that, we don't weight them, we don't consider them in our statistical numbers that we come out with for the appraisal. But what we're showing is, look, if I can find an active listing, like just for theory, for the one you're talking about, if there was a competitive active listing for 750, okay, well, it doesn't really make sense to appraise it for 8 if there's something else I can buy that's 750 that's just as good.
Mm-hmm.
But what's usually the case right now, everybody's looking to increase values. They're doing higher list prices. So those actives of mine are always higher. They're always coming in higher in the report than the sales.
Yes.
Can I ask AJ a hypothetical, Jim, about our situation?
Jarrett, I'd love you to do that, but Jimmy's going to kill me because it's 10:33. So let's take the break and remember your question, Jarrett. Don't forget, okay? And we're going to ask Jarrett's appraisal question to AJ when we come back.
We're everywhere you need to be. Find your favorite.
Thanks, guys. Okay.
I'm sorry. I think I'm behind, Jim.
Sometimes you are, but overall it's pretty good. Don't get too freaked out about it.
You're not that bad, Jarrett.
Yeah,
it was a little worse earlier.
Guys, it's like it just did. It's because I'm hearing you delayed or something. I'm sorry.
We know you're a little fuzzy too, but not bad. It's like just a tiny lag.
I've never had a problem. I'm not sure what's going on.
Just a little bit. And Jarrett, it's funny because of the mirrors and everything. I could see your little ones running up and down the stairs.
Are they still?
It's very entertaining.
Earlier.
It's awesome.
Yeah, it was pretty cute. It was pretty cute. See the kids running up and down the stairs.
I'm gonna go tell Kat to keep that door shut, man. It's hard to keep them in there.
Competitive pricing. Trident Title has attorneys on staff to make sure if you have bumps in the road declaring title that you can get the job done. Beware, not all title companies in Florida have attorneys on staff. Trident Title does and complies with all the new federal regulations released last year. Ross Camaronets, owner of Brightway Insurance, has been helping our listeners get great rates on homeowners insurance plans. Haven't checked your homeowners insurance policy in a while? This is a great way to help reduce your monthly mortgage payment. Ross can also help with renters and auto insurance. Ross is only a phone call away and can usually get the answers you need same day.
Call Ross today at 561-425-6228 or drop by his office at 873 Donald Ross Road in Juno Beach.
So now you know why I'm happy to be part of the Florida Talk Real Estate Show, the longest running real estate show in Florida. And all these sponsors are just a phone call or a click away. Just call 888-973-7828. That's 888-973-7828. Or go to floridatalkrealestate.com. That's floridatalkrealestate.com. And don't forget to use the most accurate search engine to find your new home or ask for a free home valuation because floridatalkrealestate.com has you covered. That's floridatalkrealestate.com.
If you need a lawyer after an accident, check out the 5-star reviews for Gordon & Partners. We've recovered millions for car accident victims. Call today and find out if you have a case. Gordon & Partners, fortheinjured.com.
This is Real Radio 92.1 and 101.7. Real talk for the Palm Beaches and the Treasure Coast. This is Florida Talk Real Estate with Jim DiPaola and Johnny C. Got a question for the show? Call us live at 1-877-927-6969.
That's right. This is Jimmy D, and this is Florida Talk Real Estate. And welcome back. We're going to have another about almost a half hour left of the show, and we're going to go into a couple of things. One of the things we're going to get to, and I'm so excited, is the spooky house. I love talking about spooky houses. I want to sell a haunted house. Somebody, give me a haunted house I can sell. I've been asking for 5 years. Give me a haunted house. I want
There's
one.
got to be a big one on Palm Beach somewhere for Jim.
Oh
Big,
my gosh,
big
I can't believe nobody called me up to sell their haunted house. I promise I'm going to give you a deal. If you call up and you have a haunted house and you want to sell it, I'm going to give you a deal. I promise. Just give me a call. Okay, 888-973-7828. You can even call me in the spooky hours because our phone's 24/7. Calls at 4 o'clock in the morning with the full moon. I don't care. Just call me. Okay, thanks. Okay, now that public service announcement is done, I wanted to go over something I thought was kind of interesting about those stats we were talking about earlier about the market. Hold on, let me pull this up real quick. So
Jim, while you're pulling that up, the call you just made, it reminded me of one of your personal ads that you used to post in the newspaper, right? Just call me. 4 a.m. full moon. Just call me, please.
One of the ones Jim used to post.
Yeah, he used to put that in the paper. You know, he worked for the papers, Jarrett, back in the day. You got to post your personal ad for half price, right, Jimmy?
Yeah.
There you go. Yes. So one of the things I don't ever talk about the monthly market report is, we know that I told you that there were 1,600 single-family home sales in the month of August in Palm Beach County. But how many sold at what price point? So out of the 1,600 homes, what price point do you think was the most And just so you know, they go up in $50,000 increments. So it starts off less than 50,000, then 50 to 100, then 100 to 150, and it goes all the way up to $1 million. And then the million is it's $1 million or more. So how many homes? What do you think is the biggest market, like where the price point that most people bought for the 1,600 homes?
In which county?
Palm Beach County.
Go ahead, Mike.
I'm gonna say 300 to 350.
Okay, 300 to 350. Go ahead, Mike.
Well, you said the median was not 500, a little less than 500. So half the homes sold lower than that, half above it. But I think the sweet spot was probably 400 to 450.
Okay, Jarrett.
I was gonna go with that. So I'm stuck.
Okay, you're allowed to pick the same number.
Okay, I'll go with 400 to 450.
Okay, well you guys are closer than AJ because and I lied to you guys. It isn't only 50,000, so I'm going to give it to both of you. But it's 400 to 599. The 400 to 599 market. There were 500.
Well, it's $200,000 spread.
I'm sorry, what?
I didn't know we had a $200,000 spread.
I know. Sorry about that, AJ. You know, the appraiser's mad now. I'm making him look bad. I kind of screwed you on that one. Sorry about that.
They come in $50,000.
See, now you get Jimmy D. Now you really get the Jimmy D, right?
I'll tell you one thing though, AJ. You said 300 to 350, right?
But let me finish though. But the 400 to 600, there were 516 homes, so that's almost a third. Almost a third of the homes that sold were between 400 and 599.
Yeah.
Okay. How many homes sold? Single-family homes sold for less than 50,000 last month. How many homes sold for less than 50,000 in Palm Beach County?
Actual homes?
Yeah, how many homes sold?
Single-family detached homes?
Mm-hmm. Single-family detached homes. How many under 50?
Is that trailers?
That closed under 50. Mike says 0.
Is that a trailer?
I'm going to say 4.
4. What do you say, Jarrett?
Does it include trailers?
Single-family home. No.
I'm going to say 1.
That's Jarrett 1. 1 home. You were pretty close there, AJ. 1 home. And Mike
close.
was pretty close too. But you were affinity off, Mike. 0 to 1 is affinity off. So you were way off, Mike. You were totally off. 0. So, but anyway, 1. Only 1 home sold for 50,000 less. So how many homes sold for 50 to 100? Out of 1,600 homes, 10.
I was gonna say that I in all of Palm Beach County, we kind of get we have our 6 county. There's I mean, in all of Palm, we're mostly focused on the East Coast, but there is some Western count.
There's
portions of the county.
Bellglade.
Yeah. Okay,
And
so 10. I guess 10, Jim.
And then $1 million or more was 224 out of the 1,600. So about 15%, about 1 out of 6 homes sold for over $1 million.
I did an appraisal last month, and I'm not going to say the name of the neighborhood, but it was a new construction. Not last month, like 2 weeks ago. And everybody, all the comps that I looked at had paid 6 in the high 6s to the mid 7s, and they were all reselling for 1.2 to 1.35.
Yes.
It's crazy.
That doesn't happen to be Eastern West Palm Beach, does it? By the Intercoastal?
It wasn't on. It's not on the water. It's a new construction neighborhood. They were pre-construction.
Oh,
purchases.
new construction neighborhood. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, those are the
was
pre-construction
purchase.
Yeah.
So by the time they got the keys to the home, they had 500,000 in equity.
Yeah, we talked about that 2 weeks ago. One of our people just bought a new construction home, but it took 9 months to build, and by the time it was done, they had already 15% equity by the time the house was finished.
And hey, guys, that's actually a good point from the last segment. AJ, this probably drives you mad, but take our example where the initial appraisal was 740. We got reconsideration up to 800. They closed higher than 800. Well, guess what? That's now a comp. At some closing at 840 or 850 or whatever we ended up at. That's now a comp that appraisers use to, for the new sales moving forward.
Yeah, it's and we're seeing jumps like that. I just had somebody text me during the break that our conversation reminded her of a house we had last week where we thought the value should be in the low 7s, and when she went to talk to her friend, she said, "Well, the neighbor a realtor just came by here and said we should ask 1.1. There's no comps for that. There's nothing for that. And maybe they'll get it. And if they do, it'll be a new marker for the market. But right now, that's crazy.
I totally get it. And I'm telling people now, I actually, when I was in the leadership of Keller Williams, I used to teach comping all the time. That was one of my strong fortes in teaching people how to comp properly, because that drove me crazy when the agents just overpriced a home, especially when it was harder to sell a home, right? But now what the situation is, people are so desperate to get a listing, it's like they'll almost do whatever the seller wants, right? So whatever the seller wants to hear. But the thing that I'm having a hard time with is that normally I used to be able to say with very strong confidence, look, you're never going to get that price, and I don't want to go down that path with you because it's going to be very painful, and you're going to be very disappointed, and then you're going to blame me. And, I can market your property like crazy. I sell my houses in under 21 days. I think I just was meeting with the customer yesterday. I think 80% of my houses sold in 20 days or less in the last 365 days. But my numbers haven't changed that much pre-boom versus post-boom, because I was selling my houses in 21 days, even when the days on market was 70 days on market, because of our marketing plans. But when people say that they want to put the house 10% higher than I think it should be, or 15% higher, I used to say anything 10% or higher was my red zone, and I don't want to deal with it. I just don't want to deal with the mess. But now I can't really say that. So I tell them, look, if you want to go for that extra high price, I don't have a problem with it, because I can't tell you you're not going to get it. Just like AJ was saying, the houses in the neighborhood are in the 7s and somebody says 1.1. Now that's a huge jump. That sounds a little unrealistic, but you can't say no in this market and be truthful for your customer. So,
but the important thing, like Mike just said, a little while ago, is for your agent to understand that that's what they're doing, and that if these offers for that house, if somebody got a 900 offer on that, if the realtor's good at their job, they're going to recognize that it's not going to appraise, and they better have a buyer that's willing to pay cash above and beyond. And the buyers are out there now. They weren't during the last increase, but now they are.
As long as the seller has the expectations of, hey, you may need a cash buyer, you may need them to put some additional cash down, and they I mean, it's worth whatever you can sell it for, right? So if there's people out there that are paying it right now, I mean, some people are going to want to. You may not be a great client that says, hey, I want to list it for this. If I get it, I'll take it. Otherwise I'm going to stay put. Are you seeing a lot of that or no?
Yes, there is a lot of that. We had a couple that that was their situation, and then they tried to sell a house and they ended up pulling out, right? Yeah. Because they just weren't getting what they wanted. But in today's market, what I do is, if you want to go for that super, super high price, and I feel like I could sell the house, and I feel like the sellers will be realistic once, like if the number's wrong, that they'll be willing to be reasonable and adjust quickly enough. If they're willing to do that, I usually give it 11 days. And if we can't get it sold in 11 days at that super high price, or we're not getting enough showings. What are you laughing about, Jarrett? We're not getting enough showings.
It just sounds so crazy. You give them 11 days to, but that's how the market is now. I get it. It just sounds, compared to the old market.
I know, the old days, right? So what we do is say, look, if we try to do it in the first 11 days, we don't get enough showings, or we get bad feedback for the price, or we get offers and they're just, not what we're looking for. We can always adjust in that after that 11 days, and you're really not going to have a big effect, right? You don't really have a big effect of damaging the home as far as the buyers are concerned, because it happens so early in the process. What really hurts you is if you put it at the super high price, you're not getting it, and then you wait till day 45 to drop it, and you drop it from $599.9 to $595, right? Yeah. And then you're at 60 days, and then you drop it to $580, because that's a big drop, right? 15 grand, right? And but you're getting no action, and you're just trying to crawl your way through the dark. Go, well, maybe they'll buy it for this price, or maybe they'll buy it for that price.
Makes you look
putting stuff out there. And here's the other thing you got to know: there's no way, especially in today's market, that if your house is on the market for $599 and you drop the price to $595, it makes any difference whatsoever at all. It is not going to change your listing at all. Nobody's going to go, hey, Mary, you know that house we looked at for $599 last week that we didn't like? It's on the market for $595 now. Let's go out there and drive and go out there. That isn't going to happen, guys.
It will if they adjust the interest rates.
I'm sorry?
It will if they adjust the interest rates.
Yeah, right. But here's the thing, though. What they're doing is they're putting their house, what they're going to have notified on the MLS, price reduction. Right? So it's going to show as soon as you produce the price, it shows on the MLS as a price reduction. So if you're going to do a price reduction, if you have to do one that's realistic, because you're already going to have the demarcation that there's been a price adjustment. Going from $599 to $595, all you're doing is telling people that you had a price adjustment, but no real effect to get any extra buyers out.
You're not going to get extra eyes on it. Yeah.
You're not going to get extra eyes. So
can we switch to Jarrett's appraisal question? I'm curious.
Oh, I'm sorry, I forgot about that.
Jarrett wants to know why he didn't get an adjustment for his mirrored bar behind him when they did the refi. That took time and imagination.
They built it into the structure. Somebody literally had to put mirrors, cut them. No. When they were doing, Mike knows as much about this as I do, but when they were doing the, I'm sure he remembers, when they were doing the refinance and they had to do the appraisal on my house, it always said it was 1 square footage. And then when the guy did the appraisal, he didn't measure it or anything. He just looked at it and said, oh, well, it looks like it's supposed to have another section here that's not here. And he subtracted out whatever the square footage were, like the square footage per price was of that extra 150 square foot. But we don't know what the real measurement is unless he measures it, right? So is that the proper way to do it?
Yes. Any full appraisal, Mike knows 1073, 10004, any of those forms you're required to measure. And the only one you don't measure is an exterior. And you never would have met him if he did that.
Am I right, Mike? Isn't that what happened? He just said
well, I didn't know that he didn't actually measure, but the common scenario is that, so you've got the property appraiser that says your X amount of square feet, GLA, and then you might have comps that also have per their listing or whatever GLA, but the appraiser is actually supposed to come in, measure the rooms, and put a GLA number. And so oftentimes you'll see a discrepancy between what the property appraiser says and what is on the actual report. Now, if he shorted you square footage and you didn't see him with the tape measure, that's an interesting scenario. But yeah, I often see discrepancies between what the property appraiser says and what the listing says and what's actual measures.
All the time. We have that very common, especially the older the home. But it's important that the appraiser, like what you're talking about, Jarrett, if you're in a neighborhood where there's a lot of the same model, like a townhome or, depending.
Yeah.
Well,
he just did an adjustment, right, Mike, on the actual appraisal that said minus 100 and something square feet at whatever the square footage rate was. And backed it out
the adjustment that he did is what you're probably talking about is in the sales comparison grid. And he'll put what the subject property is, and then he'll put what each one of the comps are. The thing is, we don't measure the comps, obviously, because I'm not going to show up at some stranger's house and start measuring. So we do an adjustment per square foot, but we do base the comps off of public record. Now, if it's an older neighborhood, especially like downtown Lake Worth, East Lake Worth, I'm going to talk to those realtors about their living area. Or what I'll do is I'll pull out for all the comps, I'll pull out the public record sketch, and then I'll look at the photos in the MLS. And I'll say, okay, a lot of times I can figure it out that way because I can see that this section on the back used to be a porch, but now it's been converted to living area and it looks like good living area, or vice versa. Just had somebody last week call me and their realtor listed their home and they included the porch as living area on purpose to inflate the living area in MLS. So we as appraisers, we try to catch that. We don't just go off the MLS. We compare that to public record.
I have a question about that. So in the property appraiser, it shows they show basically three figures usually: under air, total under roof, and adjusted square foot. So the adjusted square foot, what does the adjusted square foot mean? Because it's usually in between the under air and the total square feet.
I'm not sure if I know exactly what you're referring to. What I'm used to seeing on the PAPA sheet, the Palm Beach County Property Appraiser, they'll have the sketch and they'll have different sections on that sketch. Perfect example would be an area of porch that was converted to living area back in the 70s. So on the left, they'll show the living area for each one of those sketch sections. And sometimes they'll call an area a semi-finished base area instead of gross living area, or they'll name it different things. Honestly, I don't pay a lot of attention to what they call it. I just look at the section and I see if they're considering it living area or not.
So would a porch be living area? Like a screen porch in the backyard?
No, but like in downtown Lake Worth, 80% of those have been converted to Florida.
Not converted though. If they're not converted, just a screen porch.
Oh no, it's not living area then.
So if you have a front porch, if you have a screen patio, so if you have a front porch not screened, but you have an overhang, you can put your rockers there. That's not living space.
No, for it to be living space, there's a lot of different qualification it needs to add. You know, does it have AC vents? Is the floor congruent? Are the finishes congruent? Like if you just take a porch, and a lot of people think, oh, I threw windows up, so now it's living area. Well, no, I mean, there's a 6-inch step down. You have a sliding door here. There's no air conditioning. There's no electrical. It needs to be congruent with the rest of the home to be considered congruent living area.
So, why do you think the MLS does? Why do you think the MLS does living square feet and total square feet, and not call it air conditioned square feet or under air? Is it because not everything's under air? Because some houses don't have any air?
No, I think it's just a terminology thing. I think they mean the same thing.
I was going to say the same. I think you have two categories, right? Your total square feet, and then you have your GLA or your gross living area. So I think that's gross living area is the right.
Jarrett, we got 1 minute. Go ahead, Jarrett.
Oh yeah, I was just going to say with my house, I guess I thought somebody would have caught it. I bought the house. It had the same square footage listed on everything, on the property sheet, on the MLS, and then we did a appraisal for it when I bought it, and then nothing ever changed, and then all of a sudden it's 200 square feet.
The prior appraiser definitely should have caught it.
And the conundrum for Jarrett is does he report the discrepancy and then pay more taxes on his total square footage, or does he just do it right before he sells, so he makes sure he gets the maximum square footage?
Leave it. So I keep the base.
Well, I don't want to know the answer. I don't want to know that answer on air. We'll talk about that off air.
Obviously, I'm going to report it the right square footage, Mike. Come on.
So, guys, I think we got less than a minute left. Thank you all for being on the show this week. Great information. Can't wait to have you all back again. If you have any questions about any of this stuff, you give us a call 24/7, 888-973-7828. Don't forget to check us out on YouTube. Don't forget to check us out on Facebook. And go to Instagram, PPF underscore CPA. PPF underscore CPA to Instagram. Check us out over there, and check out Jarrett's website, and like that Instagram page, because you know what? There's a lot of big things happening right now. You're probably going to want to follow it. I didn't want to get into it too. I don't want to jinx anything, but things are looking pretty good. So, hey guys, I hope you have a great Saturday.
Thanks a lot.
You too, Jimmy. Thank you.
Okay,
bye, everybody.
Timothy, thank you so much for handling Jimmy D today.
My pleasure. Have a great weekend, guys.
Okay, thanks, Timothy. Okay, we're off.
Fun show, guys.